guys, it's Peggy and Dionne
Hi.
on YouTube.
On YouTube. We have our own YouTube page. I'm not sure if we shared that with you yet, but please like, subscribe, and share.
All right, we have to talk about the stadium issue that's going on with the
Yeah.
Bears right now. This is one of those issues that is not going to go away. So the latest now is that Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker was not at the meeting that the Bears
He
had.
wasn't. Right.
Yet he was asked about it on some appearance he was making.
Mhm.
And he basically said in not so, short terms that it's a non-starter right now, that there has to be more money that is being set up by the Bears and the McCaskey family before it even goes downstate to Springfield. So this is not going to get done. There is 1 month left in the legislative session.
Right.
These people, they leave Memorial Day weekend and they hate. There is nothing more that those legislators hate is when something gets put on the docket last minute and they have to stay past Memorial Day.
Not only that, Peggy, but not all of them are diehard Bears fans that are eager to see something like this get done. And I think it's challenging because there's so much energy around it and everybody's so excited about the vision of what it could be. But at the same time, there's a disconnect. There's a disconnect even with the community rallying around it and saying, we want it to look like this in our backyard, because there's a lot of questions, not just about the money. I mean, $5 billion is mind-boggling, right? Like I can't even wrap my brain around that. But for somebody who's living close by and doesn't even go to games that often, they're like, when will I get access to this? Or what kind of access will I even have to an area like this?
See, so that's kind of one of my issues is that when people say, well, it's only the top 1% that actually go to those games, what do I get out of it? Well, guess what? I don't get anything out of it either.
No, right.
I mean,
no,
a lot
I
of us don't get anything out of it.
Right.
And so when the Bears come back and they say, well, it's about jobs. It's about jobs. It's about creating the economy in the surrounding areas.
Yeah.
I was looking up some notes on some of the most recent stadiums that have been built. And typically it's overstated the amount of jobs that it does create.
Really?
So it is often overstated. There was one of the newest stadiums that got built. They did have to have a percentage of all those new jobs had to go towards local people who had like a zip code in that same area.
Right.
And so I thought, well,
concerning.
So when the Bears, ask, or, when JB Pritzker says you have to do more, like, what more can you do? Well, that's a good start because there's a lot of people. Listen, we pay a lot of taxes.
Yeah, we do.
That I don't use those facilities.
Resources, right.
I
Whatever
don't use those
funding.
resources.
Right. I don't either.
So sometimes, I get it when people are like, oh, I don't want you coming here in our neighborhood. But you're already in the neighborhood. If we're talking downtown Chicago, you're already where there is a stadium. And there has been a stadium for the past 60 years.
And public access to it because it's owned by the park district. It's not like it's closed off from people accessing that land that's right around it already.
Yeah. So let's take a look at the timeline. And this is why, first of all, this is what Kevin Warren had said that she's doing her weather right now.
I know, I've never been there.
Kevin Warren said, that they wanted the shovels in the ground this year, right? Because it's typically about a 3-year process for the stadium to be built. Well, I'd like to tie it in actually with the quarterback. So we'll get to that in a second. Let's start with September 20.
Can we just take a moment to note that she has notes and I don't?
Always.
Right,
listen, if you listen or you ever watch Peggy and Dionne on Saturdays from 11 to 1 on ESPN 1000 or the ESPN Chicago app, Peggy always has notes.
I know.
Okay, always.
Never.
It also has something to do with I'm a little bit older and I just don't remember.
Well, I don't either, but that's
okay.
Go ahead.
So September 21, that's when the Bears signed the purchase agreement on the Arlington Racecourse property. Then July of 2022, the city of Chicago suggested a dome on Soldier Field, and the Bears said, no, we don't want a dome.
They laughed. I mean, it was almost comical. Everybody's like, they're never going to do that.
The whole Lori Lightfoot stuff, like they literally dismissed her.
They did so quickly. Yeah. And here we are again.
Okay. And then February 23, the Bears close on the Arlington property. A year later, the Bears in Arlington Heights still do not have any agreement on the tax evaluation of the Arlington property. And now, as we are taping this, this May 2024, we just saw the new proposal for the Bears' new stadium, downtown Chicago, on the other side of the
Domed.
parking lot, domed from where they already are.
Okay.
There's so many questions
Yeah,
about this.
there's so many questions about it. It is beautiful. The renderings are amazing, and if that comes to fruition the way that they want it to, and they utilize the space around it the way that they want it to, that would be super exciting. I just feel like the disconnect leaves this grand void between reality and these renderings.
Of the 32 NFL teams, 19 teams have either built a new stadium
19.
or are in the process of building a new stadium over the last 2 decades. 19
Wow.
of the 32 teams. So this is kind of also a trend. It's also a way for the NFL owners to keep up with the Joneses.
Well, that's the other thing, Peggy. And I know people who aren't in
Yeah,
sports don't want to yawn. I don't want to hear it. You can't walk through another stadium and not realize that the Bears aren't playing in that same field. Like, it's just different. It needs
right.
that kind of upgrade to get on board with the stadiums of today.
It's just like a house.
It does.
Like you can
Yeah.
buy an old house and love that old house,
You're
but it's
gonna
still
want
an
to
old
fix it up.
house.
You're gonna want to fix it up.
Exactly. So the whole Governor Pritzker saying that it's a non-starter for the Bears, and the Bears immediately sent out a press release saying, "Well, that's not necessarily true."
Right.
I'm starting to wonder if it's a little bit of a smokescreen by JB Pritzker, that he's playing politics in the sense of, I don't want the public to think I'm for this. So therefore, he will say this publicly and let his people let the word out through sources that it's a non-starter. When you see Kevin Warren and the Bears say, we're still talking.
Right.
We're still planning
Well,
meetings. I think there's some smokescreen going on because it's not a popular opinion.
No, it's not. And here's what I will say. In the small times that we've interacted and observed Kevin Warren, he's determined.
Oh yeah.
He's
Yes.
determined to get this done. So how we get there is where the question still, and how long that takes. I don't think that this is something that I don't know if Arlington's still really on the table, Peggy.
Well, I think it will always be on the table as long as they own it.
As they own it, yeah.
So they have to have a fallback. I think a couple of things happen, and this is my opinion. I don't know this on any kind of, but I think a couple of things happened. I think the Bears may have jumped the gun on buying that property before they played the political game of getting all the assurances from Chicago and Cook County that they would have the taxes would be favorable. The taxes, listen, it is way overblown.
Way overblown.
What they are suggesting.
Yeah.
And so what the Bears, you can look this up. Anyone can look this up. What the Bears are willing to pay is very similar to every other city in the NFL. So that's one thing. The other thing, though, is they didn't get the assurances for the permits that were going to be needed. They didn't even have their team president, in place yet. So there was, they put the cart before the horse, and that was a little bit of a problem. Now you hire your team president, and he is in love with downtown Chicago.
Yes, he is.
In love with it.
And you can't tell me they didn't hire him without having that conversation. This can't come as a surprise.
Right?
It can't. It can't. Kevin Warren and as soon as he got to be good friends with Brandon Johnson, you just kind of felt like this is what was going to happen.
Which I think it might be a problem.
Well, it might be. I'm not going to judge friendships, but I'm just saying.
Well, getting in bed with.
Let's not say that.
Here we go.
Don't say it that way.
It's just a phrase.
I don't like it.
It's a phrase. Okay, partnering
There we go.
with a mayor who could very likely be one and done.
Yeah.
What
feels dangerous?
It feels very dangerous. So you're going to I would rather get in bed with Dionne JB Pritzker. There, I said it. Okay.
If we don't clip that forever and ever for Peggy and Dionne, we are playing that 1,000 times.
I would rather
oh my God,
partner up with him. Why? Because his political aspirations are real and they are stronger, and he has his eyes on a higher office. Brandon
That's
Johnson in
true.
Chicago?
Oh no, you're right. You're right.
I don't even
You're
know if he
right.
has the majority of Chicago
I agreed.
in his
I
own
agree. I mean, that's
corner.
true. That's true. It's just fascinating. I don't know. It's
So
drama.
that bothers me. I
Yeah,
think
it's
that
uncomfortable.
it's like picking the wrong friend. Like we
Yeah.
tell our kids that all the time. We're like, we know that they're your best friend, but yeah, like they're not good.
I
It's
know.
not good. I don't think that's a good relationship. And I know that we really, you know, like you said, who are we to tell them?
Right, right. I
So
mean,
I do get that. But I also think there's also another kind of misnomer that people um 20 years ago, funding for stadiums were almost always done by the state
oh
and local
yes,
municipalities.
that's only changed, I would say, in the last as these new stadiums have been built,
But
right?
people think that it doesn't happen anymore. It does
It
still
does still
happen.
happen.
It does still happen, and that's the misnomer. But when it happens, it's typically because there is a threat of losing the team.
Right.
So the Bears are not leaving Cook County.
Right. Right.
They're not
They're not. They're
leaving
not.
Cook County. They're not leaving the state of Illinois if they went to Arlington Heights. So that's kind of a why it's the city of Chicago. Like
Right.
that's the only thing that they're looking at. What would happen if they were gone? What happens if the
Right.
Bears
What
do
would that
leave?
look like? I don't know. There's no way to have that same vibrancy, no offense to anyone, for the Fire and the Red Stars. Like that's
Well,
not
is
gonna
Brandon Johnson still going to go ahead with making that
a
park
vibrant I
park area?
maybe.
I mean, or is it going to be
Who's
a
gonna get that?
vacant stadium?
Gosh, I would hope not. Who would get that hotel tax that's sitting there that they are going to use for all of this? Where would that go?
Well, the hotel tax would still go towards the paying off of the Illinois Sports Facilities Authority debt that was used to renovate Soldier Field right now and the old White Sox.
White Sox Stadium.
So that debt isn't going anywhere. So
Okay.
and I looked at Buffalo, the Bills just got $850 million subsidy to finance their new stadium. But again, because there was a threat of them leaving, they talked about
right.
them going to Canada. They were playing
Right,
some of their
right,
games
right, right.
there. The Titans received $1.2 billion in state and local funding, but a lot of that went toward revitalization in that area. So I think that the Bears probably have to do a lot more when it comes to what exactly, not just the open park area that you want to
No,
put
like
at the old,
right.
Soldier Field, but what more can you do for that area
Mhm.
that can actually help those neighboring communities? This is a conversation that's not going to go away.
It's not going to go away.
It's not going to get done this year.
No, they're not. I said 29 was when I thought that would maybe happen.
I was being optimistic. I said 25
Did
or
you?
6.
No, you didn't.
I
There's
did.
no way.
I said 26, I think.
Wow.
Yeah. But listen,
Didn't you also
funnier
say
things. What, that the Bears weren't going to
that they were going to trade up for Marvin Harrison?
listen? Sometimes I'd like to say things just to say them to be different because everyone else said all the obvious. So
I got
you
stuck
know,
in a toll
you
booth.
can't
It
win
was
the
fun.
lottery if you don't play the game.
That's
You
true.
if you don't buy a ticket, right? And so that's my philosophy.
All
Sometimes
right.
I'll go out on the ledge. That's what we do.
That's what we do.
Or
on
in bed
Vegas.
with Pritzker.
Or in bed with JB.
Or
Pritzker.
get in bed with JB Pritzker. All right. I said it. Listen, I'm 60. It's not
That is
something
not an
it's not something
excuse.
anyone is visualizing. All right. Trust me.
Well, we are now.
And that is Peggy and Dionne.
Raise a glass.